Welcome back to Donslife and welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk about what could be one of the most important updates for the all-new 2027 Silverado and Sierra, and it may not be what you think. Everyone seems to be focused on the new interior, the larger screens, updated styling, and the powertrains, but what caught my attention is what's underneath. According to GM Authority, GM is reportedly moving away from the wax-coated frame that they've used for years and switching to the E-coated frame on these new trucks. Now I know frame coatings don't sound that exciting, but if you own one of these trucks in Canada or anywhere where there's road salt, gravel, harsh winters, this could make a meaningful difference for the lifespan of the truck. So today I want to understand what this change actually means. We're going to review the article, then head out for a bit on a field trip. We'll look underneath a brand new 2026 GMC at the dealership that's never been driven. We'll crawl under my own 2021 GMC Sierra AT4, which is parked outside full time and has lived through 5 brutal winters here in Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan, Canada. And then we'll walk down the street and look at my friend's 2023 Ford F-150 Raptor, which has an E-coated frame, and we'll see how it's handling things. And by the way, Ford has been doing this for nearly a decade. So by the end of this video, we should have a better idea of what's in store for these 2027 Silverados and Sierras. Let's go. This article is on GM Authority. I'm going to walk through it with you, and we're going to check out the details before we go on our field trip. 2027 Chevy Silverado GMC Sierra 1500 gets a new frame coating. General Motors will introduce a new frame coating process for the 2027 Silverado 1500 and GMC 1500. According to sources familiar with the matter, the full-size pickups will move away from the current wax-coated frame treatment and adopt an electrocoated or E-coated frame beginning with the 2027 model year. The change represents a significant shift in how GM protects its popular half-ton trucks from corrosion. The 2027 Chevy Silverado 1500 and GMC Silverado 1500 already bring major updates as part of the next generation refresh, and the revised frame treatment adds another improvement beneath the surface. The wax-coated frame relies on a sprayed-on protective layer that creates a barrier between the steel and the elements, while the coating helps prevent rust. It can eventually wear, crack, or peel under harsh conditions. GM previously addressed frame wax coating concerns on some Chevy trucks after reports of peeling material appeared in certain areas. E-coating uses a different process. The frame is submerged in a charged coating bath, allowing the protective material to cover the entire surface, including hard-to-reach areas and internal cavities. The coating then cures, creating a more uniform layer of protection. The process has become common across the truck segment. The Ford F-150 and the Ram 1500 already use E-coated frames, while GM's own Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyon midsize pickups also feature the technology. Moving the Silverado and Sierra to E-coating brings GM's full-size trucks closer in line with key competitors. E-coating does not eliminate corrosion risk, and the truck's durability still depends on maintenance, exposure, and operating conditions. However, the process generally offers improved coverage and consistency compared with traditional spray-applied coatings. For buyers who use their trucks in regions where road salt and winter weather create corrosion concerns, the updated frame coating could provide meaningful long-term benefits. The 2027 Chevy Silverado 1500 and GMC Sierra 1500 will continue GM's push to refine its full-size pickups with changes that extend beyond styling and technology. The new coating process may not attract the same attention as a redesigned cabin or a new powertrain, but it addresses one of the most important parts of any truck, the structure underneath. And that's the article. To many of you, this might not sound like much, but this is a pretty significant manufacturing change. Now, before you jump to the comment section, remember this isn't exactly groundbreaking for GM here. They're already doing it on midsize pickups, but Ford and Ram have been doing the E-coating process for their frames for roughly a decade. But before we decide if it's a good thing, let's go see what current wax-coated frames look like. Ooh, nice foggy day. First stop, dealership. We're at the dealership and there's no shortage of brand new 2026 current model year trucks that still use the wax coated frames. Nice truck. That is a wax coated frame. Of course it's brand new, so it looks pristine. But don't kid yourself, I could take my finger and scratch that coating right off down to the metal. There's another view. the rear of the truck. That's a lot of metal to protect. I am digging this truck though. Maybe I shouldn't have come here. 130,000 Canadian dollars. Let me know what you think. Should we add an HD to the channel? Now, to be fair, these wax coatings do offer corrosion protection. There's no doubt that they do that. They serve a purpose. One of the benefits is they're flexible, and in many ways these coatings have done their jobs on millions and millions of these trucks. But over the years, owners have been pointing out the drawbacks. If your frame gets scraped by a lift, a floor jack, road debris, or years of gravel roads, the coating can become damaged. And once that happens, touching it up isn't as straightforward as bare steel. And that's probably one of the biggest criticisms owners have with this current system. So let's compare to my own truck. My 2021 GMC Sierra AT4. Over 5 years old, parked outside, harsh elements here in Canada, kind of par for the course. So let's start with the lift marks. These are the areas that I put my jacks, and you can see the corrosion has begun. And not just where the jacks go, but over time, the wax coating strips away, exposes the steel, and we have rust. The sad reality is this will happen over time. You can see these corners that just get pelted with water and salt. They're showing a lot of wear after 5 years. And looking inside the front here, you can see the rust starting to happen. It's a 5-year-old truck. It's also a low mileage truck. Coming to the back, you can see right here where my airbags are. And I was careful when I installed these. I didn't go out of my way to scrape off the wax coating. This is just what happens. Now sure, we could clean up some of these sections. It's going to be a lot of work because nothing adheres great to these wax coatings, and that's a problem. And that just makes having one of these current frames a complicated endeavor. Rust is going to happen because the maintenance on it is probably not realistic. Let's see what the Hummer EV uses. This appears to be an E-coated frame. Certainly not wax coated. I wouldn't think it would just be straight painted. So it's probably an E-coated frame. I'm no expert. If you know, tell me in the comments. Now we're at a dealership, so they should have a Canyon on the lot, and it should have an E-coated frame. So let's go compare and check that out. Whoa, before we get there, here's your evidence. You're not going to get a better look than this. Now I assume this is brand new. Like, you can see the problem. I get why people are concerned. 2026. Yep, E-coated. Looks just like the Hummer EV. Now this is easier to maintain and clean up. So if you did scratch this, it wouldn't be that difficult to perform your own repair. Based on what I'm seeing so far, I'm in favor of the E-coating process. And this is coming from somebody that's always tinkering with his truck. But man, that looks good. Well, I think this part of the field trip is over. We're done here. Let's get back to my neighborhood and check out that Ford F-150 Raptor that's also been in the same elements as me for the past few years. Just notice this. Here's a previous generation one. So this is probably like a 2015, 2017. I'm not the expert at that generation, but yeah, that's concerning. It's a lot of wire brushing. I don't know about you, but we've had so much rain this season that the area I'm driving through has never been this green. To me, it looks good because normally it's drab and kind of brown colored grass. So let's park the truck and we'll come back and look at that. And my neighbor's Raptor sits there pretty much all the time. So it'll be a good comparison. Ooh, nice. We have some sun. It's a little more pleasant. Now I know this is just one truck, so it's not going to make the case for all other E-coated frames, but it should give us an idea. Oh, we got a friend underneath the truck. Hi, kitty. Now we want to look for wear to the exposed areas where there's signs of corrosion, especially in the welds. Now I knew this might be the case. Yeah, it looks like not only is it E-coated, but it's got a film put on top of that. But it definitely isn't showing the rust like mine is. It's dirtier, but I'm not seeing a bunch of corrosion. So I thought it'd just be interesting to see how this is held up after a few years outside. His axle though is definitely corroding. Not out of the ordinary. Not any more or less than my GMC. But the frame is definitely protected differently. So that gives us an idea. So like any coating, it's not going to be perfect. You're still going to find chips, you're still going to find scratches, you're still going to find things that need touch-ups here and there. So no, E-coating doesn't magically stop corrosion forever. But overall, it is considered a durable foundation for long-term overall protection. This is my neighbor's Jeep. Another E-coated frame. A little bit of corrosion in the weld areas. But far less than mine. In case you've forgotten, there's one of the worst parts of mine, right there where the bags went. So what does it mean to E-coat something? Maybe the easiest way to think about it is this. Instead of spraying a protective coating onto the frame, the entire frame is submerged in a tank. An electrical current causes the coating particles to bond evenly to the metal surface. That allows the coating to reach areas that are much more difficult to coat consistently with traditional spray methods. Things like boxed sections, welds, corners, and other hard to reach areas. Once that's done, the frame is baked to cure the coating before moving further through the manufacturing process. So why am I even talking about this? Well, overall, I'm encouraged. Even though E-coating is not perfect, which it isn't, you can still chip it, you can still scratch it, you'll still need to inspect your truck, you definitely still need to wash it underneath, not only in the winter, and it will need some maintenance. Nothing changes that. But what encourages me is we're going to have a better starting point when it comes to owners of these trucks, because if mine was in the same condition as my friend's F-150, I would be much more confident in performing maintenance and mitigating any rust that's starting to appear. I just don't have that much confidence with the wax coating that I have currently, because for things to adhere, we need to get that wax coating removed and out of the way. So after looking at all these different frames today, this is where I land. I don't necessarily think that this update is going to sell the trucks on its own, because let's be honest, there's very few of us that go into a dealership and ask what type of coating do you have on the frame. But for those of us like myself that have our frames exposed to the elements, this is a meaningful update. The problem is it's going to take a few years before we really know if this change has made a big enough difference. In the meantime, I'd like to hear from you what your opinion is. Is the new E-coating a step in the right direction? Or should they just keep the traditional wax-coated frames? Or should they do both? Do the E-coating and then do the wax on top of that? Or do you think the average truck owner won't even notice? Well, there's my thoughts on the matter. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button. It helps the channel out tremendously. Please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of the updates. And we'll talk to you next time.